Why shamans, when they summon the spirit of a deceased ancestor, it comes to him in the form of an image, for example, in the form of a wolf or an owl. Has anyone thought about it? And I'm going to tell you a terrible secret. In fact, this is a really terrible secret. Let's say a shaman needs to turn to his ancestors, consult on some issue, or gain wisdom from them. But the dead really have great knowledge about our world and an understanding of all the interrelationships, because they are already part of the devil's dead wall. Well, in order for a shaman to summon a deceased relative and consult with him, he must first create a phantom, for example, a wolf phantom, and only then summons an ancestor spirit. Why is he doing this? Because a real shaman knows perfectly well that a dead ancestor is a demon. And that he's part of the devil. Therefore, he calls him into this phantom, encloses the spirit of the ancestors of the inner and talks to the phantom already. And the demon turns out to be in prison, like a bird in a cage. You miss it when you wanted to admire it yourself, not when the bird wanted to eat. Because this bird wants to eat all the time. But you open the window and pour the grains only when you want to admire. And then she flies into this cage. But don't shit and don't litter in your house. So does the shaman, encloses the spirit of the ancestors of the phantom, but does not let him directly to himself, because if he lets him in, then the dead will devour him. Therefore, until the shaman creates a cage, he will not call anyone. There's another interesting question here. What is the grain for this bird? What is the food and bait for the ancestor spirit? I think you are already beginning to understand. The shaman takes part of the life from the customer of the ritual. When you come to the shaman with some kind of request, for example, you want to be successful, and the shaman conducts a ritual for you, then you will pay for it not only with dollars, but also with your life. Moreover, the shaman takes part for himself, and part goes to create a phantom into which a dead man will enter and devour there. Because your life is food for him. And now you are already living your life not as joyfully as you would like, because most of the energy that comes from the portal is taken away from you. Well, if a bird flies into an open window without an invitation and without a cage, then it will not only shit everything around, but also create a lot of problems. Therefore, to prevent this from happening, the shaman restricts the territory to the phantom and does not feed the spirits of the ancestors on his own, because if he feeds his own, he will very quickly become exhausted and die. Therefore, shamans do everything at the expense of the energy of the people who come to them, for your energy. And do not believe that there are white shamans who are supposedly for good, and who perform rituals for free, because they are supposedly good. Those who take money are 1,000 times more honest than white shamans, because money is the equivalent of your life. You have spent your time and effort to earn them. Therefore, when you pay with money, you are already partially paying the dead only with your past. Well, partly the shaman takes part of the life of your future, and those who do not take money, they take 100% in your future, your happiness. This is magic, nothing happens here for free. And of course, there are a lot of scammers among shamans and magicians who use the placebo effect. Often, behind such sorcerers is a bird that flew into them as into a cage, lives instead of them and twists them as he wants. They seem to earn money, and even sometimes something turns out, but only with clients in the end, trouble happens and they have a hell of a lot in their lives. So that you understand, out of 1,000 shamans and magicians, there can be only one who knows what to do. The rest are either the victims themselves, or scammers, and if you fell for a scammer, then you are still very lucky, in which case you will only lose money. Part of his past. Yes, you lived in vain, worked in vain, lost money, but it will be worse if you lose your future.
What you said about the phantoms is very interesting. As far as I remember, none of the shamans we interviewed before you talked about this?
Of course, no shaman will tell and teach everyone how to work with these spirits, and in fact, with demons. And how to create phantoms. What I have told you, these are the cells, these are the hidden animals, and by the way, they can be inherited, that is, the shaman can transfer the cell he has already created, the accumulated phantom, to his disciple. Since you give your child the cage where the bird arrives. In fact, it is a controlled demon.
Tell me, can a phantom have any image?
Yes, you can create any kind of phantom. It's just a form. Why do shamans use images of animals? But it went back to the days when there was no fiction and a special variety of images around, but there were animals. In general, you can create even a dragon, even a striped beaver, it doesn't matter. And many shamans created their own phantom to go into it after death, and already in the form of a phantom they came to their disciple. And it is also important to say that they created not just disciples, they created slaves who would feed them, they created their future, because they knew how demons suffer after death. And if a person has already become a shaman, then he already understands perfectly well that he will not enter the portal, because he will burn him. It's like a person going into a blast furnace, into a red-hot furnace. Try to come in, what will happen to your body? It is clear that we are on fire. So the shaman cannot enter the portal, he will only be a stone around him. I understand this perfectly well. He creates a phantom, which he will then go into and in which he can then travel in Australia simply and safely.